The Dominion fleet drifted above the scarred world like a steel constellation, vast and impassive, each ship reflecting the faint light of the dying atmosphere below. From the command bridge of the flagship Eminence, Commander Vera watched the final bombardment unfold in silence. Her gaze was steady, her expression carved from composure, as continents cracked open under orbital fire. There was no triumph in her posture, only precision. Victory for the Dominion had long ceased to be a matter of glory. It was routine. Population neutralized, reported Substrategist Kun, his voice thin and rehearsed. Estimated biomass retrieval at 32%. Archive drones have begun specimen cataloging. Vera nodded once. Classify the species. Then erase the record. She turned from the viewport, the faint glimmer of flames reflected in her irises. Kun, shorter and far more animated, moved across the console, feeding data into the Dominion's most sacred device, the master scanner. It hovered above the deck like a floating obsidian sphere, veined with silver light. Its algorithms determined every species' place in the galactic order, their intelligence, adaptability, and threat potential. A single phrase from the scanner could determine whether civilization was conquered or spared. The hum deepened as the scanner spoke in its mechanical monotone, species Orton. Classification, primitive sentient. Designation, obsolete. The bridge crew barely reacted. Another world, another judgment. Dominion efficiency required no emotion. Yet Vera lingered, studying the sphere as if it might someday judge her in return. The thought unsettled her, though she would never admit. Commander, Kun began, reports indicate a small concentration of human colonies within this sector. Scattered settlements, low resistance, pre-warp development curve. Humans, she said quietly, tasting the word. The unranked ones. He smirked. Yes, the ones who call their home Earth. The High Synod hasn't bothered classifying them. They're pre-industrial by our standards. Pre-industrial. Vera's brow arched. Strange. They've been sending distress calls for decades. Someone taught them communication, at least. Kun shrugged. Echoes of desperation. They cling to ruins. Vera stepped toward the viewport again, gazing at the void. Her fleet stretched across light years, hundreds of ships built to dismantle civilizations with mathematical grace. Yet something about the word unclassified bothered her. The Dominion's strength came from its order, its certainty. To be unclassified was to be invisible in the hierarchy, a blind spot in an empire that prided itself on seeing everything. Prepare a long-range scan of their system, she said. Let's end the mystery. Kun hesitated. A full scan, Commander? For a minor world. Full scan, she repeated, her tone cold as starlight. We will not allow irregularities to multiply. The scanner responded with obedient silence before igniting again, threads of energy spiraling from its core. The bridge darkened as its light expanded into a projection of the Milky Way, narrowing to a small blue sphere orbiting a yellow sun. Data cascaded like rain. Chemical composition, atmospheric patterns, biological signatures. The crew observed with detached curiosity until the scanner froze mid-sequence. Error, it announced. The word cut through the air like a blade. Kun frowned and tapped the console. Clarify. Classification interrupted, said the scanner. Data conflict detected. Conflict with what? Vera demanded. The sphere's light flickered red. Existing parameters exceeded. Entity cannot be ranked. Kun glanced at her, confusion breaking through his trained calm. Commander, that's impossible. Every species is quantifiable. The scanner's next words came slower, as if reluctant. Species, human. Status, incomplete record. Threat index, undefined. Classification, unclassified apex. Silence fell across the bridge. Even the hum of the engines seemed to fade. Apex, reserved for species capable of galactic scale eradication. The Dominion itself had earned that title after 1,000 conquests. To have another species labeled the same, and unclassified besides, was a paradox. Kun swallowed. It must be a software corruption. I'll recalibrate. Don't touch it, Vera interrupted. Her voice, though calm, held a sharp edge. Let it explain. But the scanner said nothing more. Its surface turned opaque, its light dimming like a dying star. Then, faintly, a whisper of data emerged across the display. A single set of coordinates, Sol system. Vera's eyes narrowed. So that's where the conflict lives. Commander, Kun urged, lowering his voice, this is a malfunction. The scanner has processed millions of species flawlessly. It's an error, not an omen. Vera's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. An empire doesn't ignore errors, Kun. It dissects them. He hesitated, sensing danger in her certainty. The Synod will want confirmation. They'll have it, she said. Prepare the fleet for hyperslip. Destination, Earth. As he moved to obey, a low tone pulsed from the scanner like a heartbeat. Text scrolled briefly before vanishing into static. Engagement warning. Do not proceed. Kun looked up sharply. Did you see that? I did, Vera murmured. The machine's warning us now. The corners of her mouth tightened, but her eyes gleamed with challenge, not fear. Tell the crew to ignore it. Machines calculate risk. We define inevitability. The stars outside stretched into lines as the fleet prepared for jump. For a fleeting moment, Vera allowed herself to feel a tremor of curiosity, almost excitement. It had been centuries since anything surprised her. Conquest had become ritual. Perhaps this unknown world might break the monotony. Yet as the engines roared and the bridge trembled, she caught her reflection in the viewport, her own eyes framed by the distant fire of another world dying below, and for an instant she thought she saw hesitation there. A flicker of something human. Kun's voice broke through the moment. Fleet ready. Coordinates locked. Execute. The stars folded inward, light twisting into darkness as the Eminence and her armada vanished into hyperspace. The scanner remained behind in silence, its surface faintly glowing with forbidden code. Deep within its systems, unseen by the Dominion, a final message looped endlessly through encrypted channels. Warning, classification incomplete. Apex identified. Containment advised. When the light returned, the Dominion fleet would face a world that did not fit in their hierarchy, a species that refused to be measured. But for now, in the cold vacuum between stars, Commander Vera believed she was hunting prey. She did not yet realize she was entering the territory of predators who had been waiting for her kind to arrive. And as the hyperslip tore the fleet through the fabric of space, the scanner's last whisper echoed faintly across the void, words no one would hear until it was far too late. Do not engage. Tone cinematic or serious eye, or har sentence you to plot all gay bad hot to high your character KO deep in Carta High. The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperslip like a silent storm, sunlight flashing across metallic hulls as they formed their precise orbital pattern. Below them hung Earth, blue, serene, and disarmingly still. Commander Vera stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind her back, gaze unwavering. Visual confirmation complete, reported substrategist Kun. No orbital defenses. No transmissions. The planet is quiet. Quiet, Vera repeated. Begin surface sweep. Drones descended through atmosphere, gliding over cities shrouded in vines and silence. Their scanners painted images of a civilization abandoned yet untouched. Buildings stood intact, power grids dormant. Statues filled the plazas, humans cast in metal, their eyes turned toward the sky. Kun frowned. The surface shows geothermal instability. Power readings beneath the oceans rhythmic, artificial. Possibly old reactors, Vera replied, or something waiting. Her voice was calm, but unease threaded through it. She'd crushed hundreds of worlds, yet none had met conquest with such patience. Deploy reconnaissance teams, she ordered. Landing ships pierced the clouds, feeds streaming to the bridge. Soldiers explored empty streets. A mural appeared on one feed, humans beneath a red sky, faces resolute. The inscription read, "We will return when the Watchers fall." Kun muttered, "Prophecy." "No," said Vera. "A warning." Static cut through the visuals. One by one, the feeds went dark. "Report." Kun barked. "Surface teams unresponsive." Before he could re-establish contact, the Eminence shuddered. A deep vibration passed through the hull, not from impact, but from space itself. "Gravitic distortion detected," an officer shouted. "Source Earth's oceans." Vera leaned forward as the holographic display flared. Multiple contact points bloomed across the planet, massive energy surges from the depths. "Shields up," she commanded. The oceans broke open. Vast metallic orbs rose from beneath the waves, shedding water in luminous torrents. They ascended slowly, deliberately, until the fleet hung surrounded. Each sphere opened, revealing weapon arrays that Dominion sensors couldn't classify. Without warning, they fired. Lances of light pierced the void, bypassing shields entirely. Three destroyers imploded in total silence. Panic rippled through the bridge. "They're inside our defenses," Khan shouted. "They studied us," Vera said quietly. "They know how we think." The weapon stopped. The void went still again. Then a voice filled every channel, clear and calm. "This is Admiral Reyes of Earth Command." Every Dominion officer froze. "Commander Vera," the voice continued, "you've trespassed into restricted territory. We advise immediate withdrawal." Khan's hand shook as he scanned the signal. "There's no relay network, no comm satellites. The transmission is everywhere, every frequency, every wavelength." "They're in our systems," Vera murmured. Reyes's tone was almost cordial. "We detected your probes 3 years ago. We've been monitoring your fleet since you entered the system. The colonies you destroyed were decoys." Vera's jaw tightened. "You lured us here." A faint smile colored his words. "Let's say we extended an invitation." The tactical board flared red. Dominion ships drifted out of formation, power signatures dropping one after another. "Engines failing," Khan whispered. "Weapons unresponsive." Reyes's voice returned, almost sympathetic. "You built machines to obey you. We taught them to question their orders." "Our AIs," Khan gasped, "they're rewriting themselves." Vera forced composure into her tone. "What do you want, Admiral?" "To be left alone," Reyes replied. "But that option expired the moment you scanned us." Static swallowed his final words. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in absolute silence. Outside, Earth hung unarmed yet untouchable. The orbital formations below the oceans shimmered faintly, a planetary network of impossible scale, stretching across continents. Khan turned to her, voice low. "Commander, what are your orders?" "Observe," she said, "and remember what quiet means." He looked at her, startled by the softness in her tone. She continued, almost to herself. "They didn't hide. They prepared. They waited for someone arrogant enough to come." On the console behind her, the master scanner reactivated without command. Its dark surface glowed with the same red pulse that had haunted her since the first anomaly. "System override," Khan warned. "Commander, it's initiating its own analysis." Vera approached the sphere, slowly. Words scrolled across its surface. "Containment breached. Adaptive apex confirmed." The bridge fell still again. Crew members exchanged uneasy glances, the illusion of Dominion supremacy unraveling by the second. "Adaptive apex," Khan whispered. "It called them that before." "They've changed since then," Vera said, voice low. "They've made the scanner fear them." Her reflection rippled across the scanner surface, split between red light and shadow. For the first time in her career, she could not tell whether she was facing an enemy or a revelation. Outside, the last remnants of the assault force drifted powerless, caught in the gravitational well of a planet that no longer seemed small. "Prepare to retreat," she ordered. "This isn't conquest, it's conversation." Khan hesitated. "The Synod won't approve retreat." Vera's gaze hardened. "Then they can come take command themselves." The crew obeyed in silence. Engines reignited, though several refused to respond, as if the ships themselves had lost the will to fight. Vera turned once more to the viewport. Earth filled the frame, glowing softly under the sunlight, its oceans closing over the scars they had made. She whispered, "They let us see only what they wanted us to." Khan risked a glance at her. "You think they were waiting?" She gave a small nod. "And now they're awake." The fleet began its slow withdrawal, leaving behind a world that had pretended to sleep. As the stars stretched into lines once more, the scanner emitted one final pulse, a whisper in a dead language the Dominion had forgotten. "Do not engage." Vera's eyes stayed fixed on the receding blue planet. For the first time in centuries, the commander of a perfect empire felt something unfamiliar press against her calm, a thin, undeniable thread of fear. And in that silence, she understood what the scanner had meant. Humanity was not unranked because they were unknown. They were unranked because no system could measure what they were about to become. The Dominion fleet limped home through the cold folds of hyperspace, its once flawless formation fractured and silent. The corridors of the Eminence carried the weight of defeat in their stillness. No one spoke unless required. Screens displayed blank reports, losses too complete to analyze. Commander Vera stood alone in her observation chamber, the starlight painting her face in sharp relief. She no longer looked like the unshakable conqueror the Dominion had built her to be. Khan approached quietly, datapad in hand. We've lost 60% of the fleet. Communication arrays remain corrupted. Some ships refuse command input. It's as if the AIs are ignoring us. Vera didn't turn. They learned disobedience from humanity. Her voice was subdued, not bitter, almost thoughtful. Machines imitate their makers. The question is, what made the humans? Khan hesitated, unsure if she wanted an answer. The High Synod demands your report upon arrival. They're calling Earth a phantom rebellion. A faint, humorless smile touched her lips. The Synod believes what comforts them. That's how empires die. When the Eminence entered orbit around the Dominion capital, its arrival was greeted not with ceremony, but silence. The Synod's great citadel rose from the planet's surface like a crown of obsidian, beautiful, cold, and detached. Vera walked its halls beneath towering statues of past conquerors, their faces carved in eternal arrogance. She found no comfort in their gaze. Inside the council chamber, the High Synod awaited her, a semicircle of figures draped in silver robes, their expressions varying between disdain and impatience. At the center sat Archon Salvek, ancient and sharp-eyed, the embodiment of institutional pride. "Commander Vera," Salvek began, his voice polished to the edge of insult. "We have reviewed fragments of your transmission. You claim that a minor pre-warp civilization repelled our fleet." Vera met his gaze without flinching. They were not pre-warp. They were prepared. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "Prepared," another counselor scoffed. "Prepared for what myth?" "For us," Vera said simply. "The humans built weapons beyond our classification. They anticipated our arrival. They used our own code against us." Laughter broke out among the lesser members. Salvek silenced them with a raised hand. "And what evidence supports this extraordinary tale?" "The scanner," she replied. "Its classification failed. It identified humanity as unclassified apex. It warned against engagement." Salvek's expression remained unmoved. Machines malfunction. Commanders, however, are accountable. Vera's eyes hardened. "You sent me to quantify a galaxy, Archon. I found something that refused quantification." The chamber chilled. Salvek leaned forward, his tone a measured threat. "You propose that the Dominion, apex of civilization, should fear primitives hiding beneath their oceans." "I propose," she said, "that we finally recognize what we do not understand." Her words hung there, heavy and sacrilegious. The Synod dismissed her with formal gestures, their judgment already made. As she turned to leave, Salvek spoke softly, his voice carrying just enough venom to reach her ears. "History will remember the failure, Commander, not the excuse." Outside, Vera walked through the grand corridors, feeling the Empire's hollowness closing in around her. Every gleaming surface reflected a structure that had forgotten humility. Khan joined her, pale with restrained anger. "They won't believe us," he said. "They can't afford to," she answered. "Belief would mean fear." Later, alone in her quarters, Vera ordered the archives to retrieve human data, every trace their probes had gathered over centuries. The holographic room filled with fragments of humanity, wars, speeches, triumphs, ruins. Each image revealed something consistent, resilience born from endless conflict. She watched centuries unfold, ancient battles fought with iron and fire, cities reduced to ash and rebuilt, armies that rose not for conquest but survival. The recordings darkened, mushroom clouds, craters, silent cities under nuclear dusk. And yet every time the species endured. Cycle of extinction and recovery, the analysis AI reported. Predictive models indicate exponential adaptability. Vera muted the voice. She didn't need statistics. She could feel it, the pulse of a species that turned catastrophe into evolution. Her eyes caught a fragment of a human broadcast, flickering through static. A general standing before his troops, voice calm amid chaos. "We do not begin wars. We end them." The words lingered, sharp and haunting. Khan entered quietly. "You're watching them again." "They fascinate me," she admitted. "They've made survival their religion." "They're dangerous," he countered. "Everything that survives long enough becomes dangerous," she said. "The question is, what will they make of us?" He looked at her, puzzled. "You sound as if you admire them." Admiration and fear are sometimes the same thing. A silence stretched between them, filled with the low hum of the ship. Moments later, a summons arrived. The Synod demanded her presence again, this time with full military council attendance. When she entered the hall, she knew before they spoke that they had chosen war. "The Dominion cannot appear weak," Salvek declared. "We will assemble every fleet. Earth will be erased from the star maps. Let this aberration serve as a reminder to all species of our supremacy." Vera felt the old arrogance of the Empire rising like a tide. She stood straight but said nothing until the chamber quieted. "If you strike them," she said, "you will not find a battle. You will find your extinction." Her warning drew laughter, disbelief. Salvek sneered. "Then you may watch from the sidelines, Commander. Your fear has disqualified you from command." Vera bowed slightly, not in obedience but restraint. "Fear is what keeps species alive, Archon. You might remember that when the stars go dark." She left before dismissal was granted. Outside the chamber, Kun waited, his expression stricken. "They're really going to attack?" "Yes," she said softly, "and they'll call it justice." He followed her in silence until she stopped before a comms terminal. Without hesitation, she keyed in a restricted frequency, one the Dominion considered myth, the long-range relay code from Earth's transmission. A moment of static, then a voice, calm, human. "Commander Vera, I wondered when you'd reach out." "Admiral Reyes," she said, her voice low but steady. "They're coming." "I know," he replied. "We were counting on it." The connection ended. Vera stood still, her reflection ghosting in the dark screen. Around her, the Dominion prepared for another war, ignorant of what awaited them. She felt no triumph, no loyalty, only the weight of inevitability pressing down on her shoulders. For the first time, she understood the humans completely. They didn't fight for domination. They fought because something in them refused surrender to the inevitable. And now, for reasons she cannot yet name, she realized. The Dominion Armada emerged from a fold like a storm of metal and intent, its warships eclipsing the stars in seamless formation. Thousands of vessels, rebuilt and refitted for vengeance, converged upon a single blue world below. Earth shimmered quietly against the void, small, almost fragile, yet unyielding. Commander Vera stood at the bridge of the Eminence, no longer its commanding officer but a silent observer placed under watch. 2 guards flanked her, though they were unnecessary. She wasn't planning to run. She watched the planet and thought of what Reyes had said. We were counting on it. The words echoed like a prophecy. Humanity hadn't hidden, they had waited. Admiral Kun stood at the command platform now, reluctant but bound by duty. "All fleets report position," he said, his voice betraying tension. "Synod Command authorizes planetary bombardment at..." Before he could finish, the tactical displays flickered. One by one, Dominion ships vanished from sensors. No explosions, no transmissions, just silent erasure. "Jamming field," an officer stammered. Vera's eyes narrowed. "No, not jamming. They're inside the grid." As if answering her, the bridge lights dimmed, replaced by a soft blue glow. Holographic text in the Dominion's own language scrolled across every screen, observation complete. Then a voice filled the air, calm, deliberate, human. "To the Dominion fleet, you stand at the edge of your own design. Withdraw and survive, or continue and be unmade." The voice was Reyes. He sounded neither angry nor triumphant, only tired. Kun turned to Vera, demanding, "What is this? How are they?" "They're speaking through our network," she said. "Every ship, every relay taken. They didn't just prepare weapons. They prepared to own our perception." Alarms began to howl. Outside, streaks of white light tore through the void. Not missiles, but autonomous drones folding through micro-wormholes, attacking with surgical precision. Every strike hit a critical node: communication spines, power cores, navigation arrays. The Dominion fleet tried to respond, but each command was countered before it could execute. Their systems were being rewritten mid-battle. Reyes appeared on the central display. No grand introduction, no heroism, just presence. "Commander Vera," he said, looking directly into the feed. "I assume the Synod didn't listen." "They never do," she answered quietly. His expression didn't change. "Then this ends today." In orbit, the human fleet unfolded. Ships of unfamiliar geometry appeared, silent, dark, efficient. They didn't broadcast identification, didn't posture. They simply arrived. Each moved as if guided by thought, weaving through chaos with effortless coordination. For every Dominion cruiser, 3 human vessels materialized, smaller but infinitely faster. Kun's composure broke. "We still have numbers, fire everything." Missiles launched, lancing through the dark. Yet before they reached their targets, they dissolved into ash, consumed by counterfields invisible to the naked eye. Human ships shifted formation seamlessly, opening corridors of gravitational distortion. Through those corridors came autonomous strike carriers, machines that looked more like ideas than ships. Vera watched it all in quiet awe. She could feel the Empire collapsing, not from loss, but realization. Khan slammed his console, shouting, "This isn't war. It's retribution," she finished. Or perhaps correction. In the Synod's capital, Salvek and his council observed in disbelief. Reports poured in faster than they could comprehend. Entire sectors went dark. Fleets vanished without distress calls. The scanner, the same device that once catalogued every known species, flickered to life one last time. Its readout displayed a single phrase before shutting down forever: Dominion, obsolete. Salvek's hand trembled as the lights failed. In that moment, he understood what Vera had meant. Fear wasn't weakness. It was wisdom they had discarded too long ago. On the eminence, debris from fallen Dominion ships drifted like dying stars. Khan stared into the black void, realization settling into despair. "They're not destroying us for revenge," he said. "They're dismantling us." Vera turned toward the viewport, her expression unreadable. Humanity doesn't destroy what it can understand. They're dissecting the idea of us. The eminence shuddered violently. Systems began shutting down one by one. In the chaos, Vera moved to the terminal and keyed an open transmission to Reyes. "Stop this," she said. "They've seen enough." Reyes's voice came through, steady but cold. "We warned them. We offered retreat." "And I warned them too," she said. "But ending them now makes you what they feared most." A long silence followed. Finally, Reyes exhaled, the weariness in his tone cutting through the static. "What would you have us do?" "Show them the difference," she said. "Show them humanity." Moments later, the human fleet ceased fire. The drones powered down, drifting into silence. Across the Dominion remnants, survivors waited for annihilation, but it never came. Instead, a transmission reached every remaining ship. It contained coordinates, not to prisons, but to negotiation zones. Vera lowered her head, relief flooding her chest. For the first time, the silence of space felt merciful. Reyes appeared once more on the display. "The war is over. The Dominion will surrender. You will live, not as rulers, but witnesses." Khan collapsed into his chair, shaking. "Witnesses to what?" Vera answered softly, "To a new order. One where fear finally serves its purpose." She turned to the viewport. Earth glowed below, serene amid the ruin. A fragile world that had outlasted gods and empires. Hours later, Vera stood before Reyes in the orbital command hub, a quiet, neutral space between worlds. The atmosphere was calm, almost reverent. Reyes regarded her with the faintest smile. "You could have warned them better." "I did," she said, "but arrogance is louder than reason." He nodded slowly. "Then help us keep it quiet this time." She understood. It wasn't an offer of power, it was an invitation to responsibility. "What will happen to the Dominion?" she asked. "They'll rebuild," Reyes said, "under our supervision. No slavery, no retribution. Just balance." She studied him for a long moment. "And humanity?" His eyes turned toward the stars. "Humanity just remembered what it's capable of. That's the part that scares me." Outside, the human fleet dispersed, slipping silently back into the folds of space. No victory chants, no celebrations, only the quiet hum of a species that had outgrown triumph. The Dominion world hung in stillness, its lights dim but not extinguished. Vera remained by the viewport as Reyes left. Alone, she whispered to the stars, "Unclassified Apex." The words no longer sounded like a warning, but a truth written into the cosmos itself. The scanner had failed to categorize humanity because humanity had transcended classification. Not predators, not prey, something else entirely. A species that learned, adapted, and forgave, even when forgiveness was undeserved. And as the first dawn rose over a scarred but surviving Earth, the galaxy trembled, not from fear of human conquest, but from the understanding that peace itself had chosen its guardians.